everyone. So the documentary I chose to analyze was The Social Dilemma. The documentary opens with a bunch of experts being introduced, and they all start to explain the roots and fundamentals of how all these internet and social network sites work and what their goals are and how they were created. This allows for the audience to kind of gain a better idea of the fundamentals of how they work and kind of start off with the good knowledge so we can better understand all the concepts they introduce later on. So Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any media company is in the business of obtaining our attention. It's not like other businesses where we give them money and in exchange we get a good. The way they profit is by selling ads. And the way they sell ads is by being a company known for being able to obtain and retain people's attention. Data is constantly being collected so they can analyze how to better obtain our attention. An interesting fact, they say in the documentary is that they monitor how many seconds you look at each post or how many seconds you are on this website, and they use that to create an image of you so they can better cater to your likes and dislikes. And they also monitor who and what you're in close proximity to. There was a really interesting quote included in the documentary. It says there are only two industries that call their customers users: illegal drugs and software. And at first I thought this was kind of an interesting quote to put in there, and then they kind of expanded on it and I started to understand what they were trying to say. Both of these industries really deal with feeding off of people's addiction and people's having to have more. So some of the persuasion tactics used throughout this are definitely pathos, ethos, and logos. So pathos, there's definitely a lot of it used throughout. There's a movie type plot that kind of breaks up the interview segments, and it kind of narrates and focuses all of the facts they're giving you and narrows it and puts it in a real life situation. It kind of follows a family as they argue and debate technological, issues, and shows them experiencing it in, real life. And it also kind of pulls out your heartstrings and allows you to sympathize with, people. There's a shot in the documentary of a girl staring at herself in the mirror after looking on Instagram, and she's crying, and it helps you, feel what everyone's feeling. There's also a lot of examples of ethos throughout it. They're constantly showing you how the sources they're giving you are credible, stating, oh, well, this person you're listening to, this was their position at Twitter, this was their position at Instagram. And it helps you definitely believe everything that's being told to you. One of the reasons I also found this whole documentary very credible was at one point, one of the experts was stating how he knows all of the tactics that are being used to reel him in. He knows that their goal is to try to keep him on his phone as long as possible, and he still can't help but fall prey to it, even though he's aware of all the tactics they're using, which to me gave a very honest, just authentic vibe to what he was trying to say. And it made me believe all the different facts he was saying, because he was honest enough to say that even he falls prey to the traps. There was a lot of logic and statistics used throughout the entire documentary. On the next slide, I zoomed in on this. So you can see here, the two specific statistics that stood out to me were the US suicide rates and US hospital admission for non-fatal self-harm. So for suicide rates, it went up 70% for teen girls in the first decade, or from the first decade of the century, up 151% for preteen girls from the first decade of the century. And for self-harm, it went up 62% for teen girls since 2009 and up 189% for preteen girls since 2009. And the reason this all applies to the whole documentary is because both of these experienced a turning point at the 2009 to 2010 area. And 2009 to 2010 is also known as the rise of social media. So a very, main point of what was being explained throughout the documentary is the root and the goal of social media at its creation was purely to be a tool-based software. And a tool, by definition, cannot be inherently good or bad. It is only a vessel that a person can choose how it's used, which I think is important to keep in mind when you're learning about all of this information. But the truth is, it has evolved into kind of a manipulation and attention-seeking software far from its original purpose. Because of its new purpose, people take advantage of this tool and use it strategically for a lot of different reasons. There are a lot of examples given throughout the documentary, but the clearest one with kind of the most examples under its umbrella, what I would say is politics. It gives an example that it has kind of created a type of digital warfare in which one nation can manipulate another without ever having to actually step foot on the soil. It can spread rumors about one nation, it could start promoting this for another nation, and it never actually has to do anything illegal because it's just using these social networks as a tool. It can essentially rewire our brains to think differently, which I'm sure we've all heard a lot of times, but a way to just apply this to an actual scenario would be, one of the experts explained how he worked with news feeds, and news feeds, it starts only showing people articles that they know kind of applies to that person's beliefs, and sometimes if you're only seeing your belief, you start to believe your belief is the only one, and which can definitely cause a type of blindness toward anything else. So, the essential and overall question of what this documentary posed is, what happens next? And it kind of enlightened us all on a lot of the effects of social media, kind of more than just, it's rotting our brains. It really helped us get to the root of what it is causing and how it's affecting us in a lot of different avenues. And I think it is a harsh truth to accept, but the way software and social media has fundamentally been designed has been entirely corrupted and is being used for a detrimental purpose. And as the last expert in the last scene of the documentary said, it has to change. We have no choice. So I think this documentary did a really great job of explaining and persuading us to understand and feel enlightened on the issue. So thank you very much.